Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Huckabee of the Conversations with Nicole show. My guest today is Paige Arnoff Fenn, founder and CEO of Mavens and Moguls. Paige shares her inspiring journey of starting a global branding and digital marketing firm. You'll learn how she navigated challenges, including personal loss, and the importance of self care while growing her business. Discover her insights on entrepreneurship, work life balance, and the power of networking in the digital age. I really enjoyed my conversation with her. I hope you will too. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am delighted to have as my guest today Paige Arnoff Fenn. She is the founder and CEO of Mavens and Moguls. Paige, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. I'm so excited to chat with you.
It is my honor and privilege to have you as my guest. You have quite the inspirational story, one of perseverance, one of kind of shifting in your life from one thing to another, taking chances, all to become the founder and CEO of a global branding and digital marketing firm. So, kind of tell me about your journey. How did it all begin for you?
Well, I think like a lot of people, looking back on your career, it's not exactly the way you planned it or what you thought you'd be doing when you grew up. When I was a student, I really thought I was going to be like Meg Whitman. I'd end up working at a big corporate Fortune 500 company and work my way to the top and end up being the CEO, president, and inspiring and motivating people all over the world and growing a very traditional kind of Fortune 500 business. That was the path I thought I was on. And if you had met me in college or grad school, I would have sworn that would have been my career. But
Yes.
I started out on Wall Street in the 1980s. Michael Douglas had just won the Oscar for the first Wall Street movie. And
We all know it.
I got so enamored with the whole scene of it. I thought, oh, that's what I want to do. Well, I signed up for a 2-year financial analyst job, and I realized right away it would not be my path, but I'd made a commitment, so I stuck with it. And then I went back to business school and rebranded myself to be a marketing person. And I started my marketing career at Procter and Gamble and Coca-Cola, big Fortune 500, big consumer products companies where marketing kind of drives the engine, and
Mhm.
had a very traditional consumer packaged goods training. And I loved it. But when the internet started taking off in the mid to late 90s, I got very distracted, and I was like the new shiny object. And I just got really sucked in to the internet 1.0. And I left my comfy, cushy corporate job and joined an internet startup in Los Angeles. And I never looked back. And I was the head of marketing at 3 different startup companies, one in LA, 2 here in Boston. They all had pretty good exits. And then 9/11 hit, and all marketing jobs dried up. And I hung out a shingle, and I've been doing it ever since.
That's incredible. I love how you kept pivoting, doing different things, and never giving up and always saying, what else is next for me? But I know that some of those pivots and changes came with a bit of worry, of concern sometimes. It wasn't as easy as you just made it sound, I'm sure, even though that was beautiful. Your success has been incredible. But I do know along the way, when you've made those transitions, it has been because of other factors in your life. So share that.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody, you have ups and downs and twists and turns. And like you said, you have to pivot, you have to learn to kind of figure out what it is that works and what it is that doesn't work. About 5 years, when I started my business, like I said, 9/11 happened. If for the listeners that are old enough to remember, the
Yeah.
stock market tanked, and a lot of startups and a lot of big companies wanted to conserve their cash. And the first thing they did was cut their marketing department and cut their marketing budget. Um, so that's when I decided, after 3 successful startups, I had a little success 3 times, but I didn't work for Google or Facebook or LinkedIn. So it wasn't like I made a bajillion dollars, but I made a little money 3 times. And I just decided, I was so enamored with what was happening in the technology space, I was going to leave um, the startup world behind and start my own thing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the head of marketing for somebody else. I thought, I've learned a lot. It's time for me to figure out what I want to do. And for the first 5 years of my business, I was really scared to go on vacation. To be honest, I thought, if I'm not here, the whole house of cards is going to come tumbling down, and I won't have a business to come back to if I take my foot off the gas for even a minute. But I was really forced to rethink things. My husband and I went through a period. Both of our parents got sick, and we saw a lot of twists and turns with people that were close to us that had health issues, and we ended up losing 7 of our nearest and dearest in 6 years, which was really hard. And
A lot.
I'm the oldest in my family. He's the only guy in his family, and we were the only ones that didn't have kids out of all our generation. So a lot of the care of our family fell on us. We were both independently employed, doing consulting for our own businesses. So we had the flexibility to be able to get on planes and be with our family when they needed us, which we were really grateful for. And, with technology the way it is, with your cell phone and your computer, you can work from anywhere. And our families were based in the Boston area. My mom was based in Louisiana, but when she got cancer, she went up to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. My dad retired to California. His parents were in the Pacific Northwest. So we just went through years of getting on planes and helping out our family. And it was just a tough period. And I think we got both very good managing our business and managing our family, and kind of resetting our priorities so that we could be there when people really needed us. And it really, over that 6-year period, losing 7 people, it just, nobody on their deathbed wishes that they worked more or they got a bigger promotion or a bigger raise. You just realize it's a privilege to be able to be with people that you care about at the end of their life. And, your definition of success changes. I used to think I needed a big company and a big platform. But as I worked for smaller businesses and then started my own business, I realized what was important to me are the people whose lives that touched mine and people whose lives I could touch. And it just kind of was a reset button for me. And I realized being a small, successful business was really much more fulfilling and gratifying than working for a huge company where you don't really have as much control over your life, and you can't just drop everything and get on a plane and take care of people. If you work for a public company, they have quarterly earnings and commitments they have to make, and analysts that are going to follow their success, and it necessarily sync up with your priorities. So I learned a lot about myself and my definition of success. And, my husband and I were able to juggle our businesses and grow at a rate that was comfortable for us. And we were fortunate that we both self-funded our businesses. We didn't raise any venture capital money or outside institutional money. So we were in charge. The buck really did stop with us, and that's a really fortunate position to be in.
Yeah. Gosh, so many life lessons that you just talked about right there. And just thinking about how we change too as we grow older and we go through experiences. I do feel change is what becomes most important to us. And I think you just eloquently said that so well in your own life experience when you come to realize what really is success, what really is important. Where is the balance and where do you want to put your focus? And so, talk a little bit more about that when you talk about it's important to care for yourself, it's important to have balance. And at the end of the day, if you walk away for a vacation or a little time to be with family, those that are important, your friends, it will be okay. People don't realize that though, do they?
No, like I said, I was scared to go on vacation for my first 5 years owning my business. And when you start to realize how short life really is and what really matters to you, and that it's okay if your definition of success changes,
Yeah.
it shows that you've matured and you've processed what really matters most to you and who really matters most to you. And I think I'm just incredibly grateful that, it was an interesting lesson to me before everyone was getting sick and dying. I was the queen of networking. I would get up in the morning, I'd go to a breakfast networking event, I'd have a bunch of meetings during the day for coffee, lunch. I'd go to one or two networking events every night during the week. And, I was just everywhere. And when people started getting sick and they lived thousands of miles away, I was on an airplane and I would spend maybe a week or 10 days with my family.
Yeah.
So I'd be busy getting ready for a trip, then I'd be gone for a week, then I'd have to get caught up, and then I'd come back to networking. And what I realized during that period, people used to see me multiple times a week, and then they weren't seeing me at all for like maybe a week or 10 days. And what was funny about that period, well before COVID, when people weren't seeing me as much, they said, Paige, I've been to a bunch of events and I'm not seeing you. Where are you? Because you must know something that I don't know. What are the new things going on? And I'm like, I didn't really tell everybody, well, my mom's dying of cancer.
Right.
My father in law has been sick. And I just said I've had some family commitments and I haven't been able to do as much networking. Well, it's interesting because before I would go on these trips, I would meet with clients who would say, can we get a proposal for a new marketing program? So I'd hurry up, do a proposal, I'd give it to them. And then I'd get on a plane the next morning and I'd be gone for a week or 10 days. And then I'd
Mhm.
come back and I'm thinking, my God, I never followed up with that client. And I sent him a proposal, a week ago, a week and a half ago. So I'd call the client and say, I'm so sorry. I've been so busy. Did you have any questions? Is there anything I can answer? Did the proposal meet your needs?
Yeah.
And the client, this happened all the time where the client said, Paige, I talked to several marketing agencies and they have been stalking me. They're always like emailing me, leaving me voicemails. They call and they hang up. You're the only person that's given me space. I
Oh,
loved your proposal. The truth is, I've been so distracted, I haven't had time to focus. If you don't hear from me by next week, will you promise to call and follow up? And I said, sure. And what happened was, instead of being one of those neurotic consultants or agencies that was stalking their clients and not giving them a minute to breathe, I was, distracted and doing other stuff. And they saw it as a sign of me being so busy that, that all these other people were being desperate. And what was strange to me is during that period, I was winning a lot more business than I used to. And I realized as everyone started to die, um, and we got the estates all settled, I realized I don't need to go back to networking 5 times a day. I could just pick a couple of events. I
yeah.
don't have to be out of town or, um, you know, going away to just say tonight I want to have dinner with a few friends. Tonight I'd rather go to a lecture. And what I learned was less can be more. You don't have to fill every block on your calendar, and it's okay to have white space. that says, take some time for yourself, take a walk, get some exercise. And it really helped me learn to take more of time for myself. And, a mentor always used to tell me, you're only going to be as good to your clients as you're the number one client. And if you run yourself down and get burned out, you're not going to be of use to anyone else either. So it's okay to carve out space for yourself. Don't fill every block. Don't overcommit. Don't go to 2 networking events, one early, one later. Pick your battles and get the most out of less can be more. Get the most out of each event, and don't be focused on stuffing your calendar with a bunch of stuff that you're not really as engaged with. And that has been such great advice for me. And now that I'm at a stage where, my husband and I don't have anyone to take care of except each other now, it's made for a much more sane life that you can disconnect from your cell phone, you can disconnect from your computer and just take a night off or take a weekend off. Everything's going to be there when you get back on Monday. And, I think you're a more interesting person to meet with and talk to if you've done something other than work 24/7.
Very true. Very true. And then when you do meet up with someone to talk to them and network, you have more things to talk about than just work, which is, I'm sure, what happened a lot as you were going from one event to the
Exactly.
other. So many
Exactly.
life lessons there, slowing down and not feeling like you have to be everywhere and do everything. I do feel as we are going through life and whatever profession we are in, we do have this overwhelming feeling. And I think sometimes we almost feel guilty if we're not doing it. And I'm not sure why we feel guilty to say, that's just not going to work for me today. I need to do this so I can be my best self for you tomorrow at X, Y, and Z. Interesting how that happens in life.
Absolutely. And I mean, I just think when you're really clear on what your priorities are and what's important to you, you can kind of brush over the things that become filler or distractions. And I don't know, I just feel like in my life, it's learning to say no is a really important skill, because then when you say yes, it really resonates. It's really in your sweet spot. I just feel like there are so many times when I started my business, I was nervous and I would take on projects because I thought, what if I don't get another client? Or, unless someone is really a great fit for us, I'm asking them more questions than they're asking me. I want it to be a match made in heaven. I want to be a great partner for them and make sure that my team really is right in that sweet spot. And if we're not, I'll be the first to tell them, I don't know that we're the right team for you. And it's funny because people aren't really used to hearing that. And sometimes that makes them want you more. They'll say,
Right.
well, maybe I have more of a budget than I told you. I could spend, like, it's not about the budget. It's just that, what you're asking us to do is not really our strength. Like, I think another firm is going to serve you better. Or they'll say, I want this done in 3 weeks. And I'll say, we need 3 weeks just to do the market research. We're not going to be able to finish the project probably for 2 months. And they'll say, well, we're going to hire someone who can do it in 3 weeks. And I'll say, I wish you well. I've been doing marketing since 1990. I've never seen anybody get that much done, everything that you're trying to accomplish. But in 3 weeks' time, if you go with another firm and they're not helping you, please come back. We'd be happy to chat. But I can't give you the time or the money back. But we can definitely help you, but it's going to take a little longer than you expect. And then sure enough, they'll come back and say, we really appreciate you were so honest. Nobody, they were telling us what they needed to tell us to win the business, but they didn't know what they were doing. Now we want to go with someone who's an expert. And then they bring us in. So I feel when you're authentic and you know what you're good at, you know what the process is because you're experienced at it. People might not like the answer, but if when you're honest and direct, they remember and they'll come back if they get burned.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, honesty, transparency, really understanding what a marketing firm does and knowing your business that well to be upfront and say, this is what we can do for you, or you're not a good fit. I have more respect for that than anything, you know, as a client, if I was your client. So I think that in itself is the definition of success.
For sure. And it's interesting because a lot of clients, when we do a project, we'll give them the time, we'll tell them this is how much time, this is how much budget. And at the end, um, a lot of times, everyone in my group, I have about 4 dozen people that work with me at Mavens and Moguls. And I joke that we're all a little bit type A neurotic, that even though we give the time and the budget, the truth is when we start working with somebody, we love what we do and we know that it's a good match. And we probably all work 20% more than we thought we would when we budgeted. But we never go back and charge them more money. We just say, you know, we were so involved, the time passed, we weren't paying attention. But that's a really good way to over service your
Yeah.
clients. And then they feel like they get great value and then they become champions. And then they'll basically give you referrals and they'll say to other people, oh my God, I hired this team. They're great. And, they're not even that expensive. They delivered so much value to us.
Yeah.
We were so surprised, how much they were able to accomplish. And that's if you leave a little money on the table and leave people feeling like they got great value, that you leveraged all your experience and training and they're benefiting from that. It's a great way to build a business.
Yeah, value, quality. I mean, again, just all the things that create a successful business. Just briefly share a little bit about your company, details about it, how many people you have working for you, your goals, and how the process works.
So basically, we are a virtual marketing department for organizations that need access to great marketing talent on an as needed outsource basis. So we can be your marketing team or we can be an extension of a skeletal crew in house. A lot of companies have junior marketing people that are very good tactically. They can do social media, they can do all the tools and technologies, but they don't really have a strategy or they don't really understand the voice of the customer, as well as a more seasoned marketer. So a lot of those companies bring us in, basically have a seat at the table to lay down the strategy and maybe manage some of that junior talent so that they're not just randomly throwing out a bunch of, social media messages, that there actually is some thought behind it and that there are themes and they're all going towards a direction
Same
that
goal.
you're exactly. So, I think where a lot of clients go wrong, they get very distracted by all the platforms that are out there and they dilute their message and their brand because they try to be one thing on Facebook and something else on LinkedIn and something else on X, Twitter, and what that does is it confuses your audience. They don't know if you're going to turn up and be the humorous version, the buttoned up version, the snarky version of, what your message is. So we can really help companies put together a strong marketing strategy, get some tight messaging, and then execute as part of a plan so that they have an ongoing conversation with their audience. So we help people find the right words and pictures to tell a really compelling story. And we're just there kind of behind the scenes for support. And sometimes you might have a VP of marketing or a chief marketing officer that's going out on maternity leave or that needs to get a hip replacement or a knee replacement, and they're going to be gone for a month or two, and they just need somebody to keep the trains running. And we can backfill for those positions so that when they come back, everything's running smoothly. So we do anything a marketing department, ad agency, PR agency, or market research shop does on an as-needed outsource basis.
Paige, you're like a one-stop shop.
Well, we are. I've got these 4 dozen resources. They're in 14 cities around the U.S. They're in some major metro areas overseas. We've done work in Canada, Mexico, the Middle East, Europe, Asia. We were virtual way before COVID. So we're very comfortable working, seamlessly as an extension of our clients' teams.
Interesting to hear you talk now about this great success. And at one time you were worried about making that change to being an entrepreneur. And here you are all over the world, right? Sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith, find your purpose, and listen to all the things that are happening around you and say, how do I need to focus myself and guide myself into this next step when all of these things are happening? And I'm sure there were times you weren't sure about it, but you took that leap of faith, and look where you are today.
But I took baby steps. I went from big companies to small companies to my company. And with my company, I started with a few clients. We worked with a bunch of portfolio companies with venture capital groups. And if we helped one of their portfolio companies, then the guy would say, wow, that was really good. Can you help another company that I have an investment in? Maybe, and then maybe the president or the vice president of the company goes to a different company and they call us and say, remember what you did for me at my last place? Can you do it now at this place? So, I took baby steps. I didn't try and do it all at once.
Yeah.
And, the technology is, when I started, there was no social media. And as these new tools and technologies come on board, you have to keep your skills fresh and current, and you have to grow with the market and be a good listener, because your clients will tell you what they need and what they're missing, where the gaps are, where the holes are. The basics of marketing are really the same, whether you're doing it for a big Fortune 500 company or a small business. You got to get your message right. You got to know who your target audience is. It's so the basics don't change. The budgets are different. When I worked at P&G and Coke, they had millions of dollars to spend, and they could sponsor the Olympics and the Super Bowl. My clients now are mostly small and medium businesses, and they don't have huge budgets. So they have to be pretty scrappy, and we can help them, really get noticed and raise their visibility and profile in a way that's appropriate for them. So it's fun. Every client is a little bit different. We're not like a cookie cutter. Everybody's got kind of some of the same challenges and some different challenges. We're industry agnostic. We work with nonprofits, technology firms, professional service firms, all over every industry. And there are a lot of best practices that you can learn with one business that you can apply to other businesses. Yeah. So it keeps it really fun for my team too. We're always, applying new stuff, which is great. We learn a lot with every project.
Well, that's the beauty of our world, and always learning and learning new skills and making sure you're relevant and understanding what's going on in the world today and how things have changed. Well, this conversation has been incredible. You are so inspirational. And that is my goal here on Conversations with Nicole, is to inspire and have meaningful conversations. Thank you so much for being my guest. It's just been absolutely wonderful.
Well, I've loved it. You are so fun to chat with, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So let folks know how they can find you.
Two best ways are my company website, mavensandmoguls.com. It's MAVENSANDMOGULS.com. Or you can go to LinkedIn. My last name is hyphenated, but LinkedIn smushes it all together. So it's PAIGEARNOFFENN. And as one of my clients always says, because there's an ampersand in my company name and a hyphen in my last name, she always forgets. So she Googles Paige and Mavens, and I pop right up. So thank
Perfect.
goodness search engine optimization really works.
As we had said earlier, technology is a beautiful thing when it works, and so are analytics and Google searches.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, Paige, this has just been a real blast. What a pleasure to have you as my guest today. Thank you so much. And of course, I just know more good things are in the works for you. So you'll have to keep me updated.
I sure will. Thanks, Nicole. This has been great.
It's been a blast. Thank you. And that will do it for this edition of Conversations with Nicole. Until I see you again, I hope you have a great day.